All right, Andrew, we are live today on 5 different streams. We've got LinkedIn Live going from my profile page. We've got my Facebook profile page, my Facebook company page, my YouTube story by data, and Twitter's Periscope. So, hello, welcome to the Datacated Show. How are you doing?
Wow, yeah, that's a lot of social media, isn't it, that we're on? I don't know.
That
I mean,
is.
I know you've got a lot of followers on LinkedIn. I don't know what your other social media followings are like, but I imagine there's a few people there, right?
There's a few people, and guys, if you're joining from any of those apps, just say hello, because on StreamYard, I can actually tell who's joining from where. There's a little icon that comes along with it. So definitely let me know that you're here. If you're watching, we're going to have the most awesome session ever here with Andrew Jones. We're going to talk about skills that you need to get into data science or to have a successful career in data science. So definitely bring all of your questions, comment on the session throughout. We actually have a really special giveaway today. And the rules of the giveaway are you simply have to sign up for the upcoming Datacated conference. That's step 1. Step 2 is you ask a question or leave a comment, something interesting that adds value to our conversation here. But yeah, if you've got questions, bring them. We're going to stick around for about half an hour. So I see a bunch of people here saying hello. Most are from LinkedIn. So let's see if any other app actually joined. So hello, guys. Thank you so much for joining us here. I love that I don't even have to ask where people are tuning in from. People just do it. This is awesome. Let's see.
I do that. I do that as well. Whenever I join something, I tell them where I'm from. It's like a habit we're all now in, but it's good.
Yeah, it's actually, it was pretty funny where at some point I went live with someone else and I'm like, what question should we start with? Because I like asking a question from the audience. He's like, let's ask them what's the most boring place they've ever visited. So now I asked that question, but not everyone joins at the same time, right? So when people just started joining, they started tuning in saying, hey, from Bangalore, hey, from Florida. And I'm like, wait, is that the most boring place? Or so yeah, never asking that question again.
That was with Eric Weber.
That
right?
was with Eric, yes.
Yeah, I remember watching that. Well, I sit in this little cave all day on LinkedIn. LinkedIn's like my only friends I have during the day, so I'm always watching the live sessions.
Yes, that was a funny one. So yes, guys, definitely bring your questions. I'm going to go check on something quickly, Andrew. So while I'm doing that, why don't you tell everybody who you are, what's Data Science Infinity, and what is the giveaway that one person is going to get that you're going to announce today or tomorrow?
Yeah, no worries at all. All right, so my name is Andrew Jones, as you can see on the screen. But I guess you could say that I'm a data scientist. In the last 5 years or so, I worked for companies like Amazon, and then did some consulting for Sony PlayStation. And then in March of last year, I decided to give up consulting and create an online course for getting into data science. And the primary reason that I did that was during my time at Amazon and Sony, I had the very fortunate role of interviewing and screening hundreds of data science candidates, and I continually saw this pattern coming through where there seemed to be this disconnect between what aspiring data scientists are learning and the requirements that hiring managers are really looking for, and all that means at the end of the day is that it becomes a very inefficient process for hiring managers trying to find the right person. But it also means there's a lot of rejection and heartbreak for candidates who are coming in thinking that they've learned the things they need to learn, and hiring managers saying, well, that doesn't really fit with what we need. So I went about trying to create something that would bridge that gap. Initially, I planned to spend 2 months creating this course. 7 or 8 months later, I finally got there. As Kate will know from creating a course, it turns into a huge amount of work to do it well. You find out a lot about what you don't know when you're trying to teach other people. But instead of this just being my opinion and my opinion alone, which is often the case when you're trying to learn something and you're going to YouTube or you're on Medium, it's just people telling you what they think you should learn. I wanted to be a little bit smarter than that, because as a data scientist, right, as a bit of an analogy for data science, you would never take a sample of one in an experiment and think that was going to tell you something useful, right? So I went out and I talked to hundreds of leaders and hiring managers and recruiters in the field of data science and analytics. I talk to them about skills and tools and techniques and attitudes and education, and what is it that makes, what's the difference between a good data scientist and a great data scientist? What's the difference between a data science candidate who gets the role versus one who continually misses out? And I distilled all of that down into Data Science Infinity. So I can give a bit of a quick overview of what Data Science Infinity covers. I can be pretty quick. Actually, let me cover what your question was, maybe, because that would be rude not to. I'll go straight into just plugging what I built. But so in terms of data science itself, so I think at a very high level, some of the things that you need. So you do need some coding, and I advise learning SQL as the first step in getting into data science. And the reason for that is that while it's not maybe as sexy as Python or R, it is solving business problems for 99% of businesses still. A lot of these businesses, even, I'll tell you, Amazon, Sony, PlayStation, they still store most of their data in relational databases, and they need people who can extract those key business insights so they can make the right decisions quickly. And a lot of that just comes down to knowing how to use SQL well. So I definitely recommend that. Then you'll probably want to learn a more traditional sort of programming language, and I advise learning Python, but I'm not going to get into the Python versus R debate. I learned R first, and then I learned Python purely because it synced a little bit better during my time at PlayStation with the engineering teams that they had. So I advise learning Python. Next, I guess you're going to learn about all of the mathematics that you need to get into data science. And I always tell people, don't be scared away by that. People will tell you that you can't be a data scientist unless you've studied linear algebra and you've read this book and you've read that book. And it's true that you need those skills. You absolutely need those skills, and you will pick those up. But don't be scared away by that. Learn them as you build things like that. Build projects and build applications using machine learning models, and learn those things as you apply them, turning the dials and pushing the buttons and seeing what happened and why it happened, because that's so much more enjoyable. But you're also learning in a way which you can then, intuitively explain to other people, I think is a huge part of it. Machine learning, as I've mentioned, that's huge. That's a huge part of data science. Everyone wants to learn it, and it is key, but don't think that you need to learn every possible machine learning algorithm under the sun, because there's 4 or 5 machine learning algorithms that will solve 95% of business problems that even require a machine learning solution. So that I learn those ones really well.
You said there are 5.
I think things like linear regression, decision trees, random forests, and then for, say, classification problems, you probably just want logistic regression, again, decision trees, random forests, and maybe something like k-nearest neighbors. They sort of all work in slightly different ways that give you a really good coverage of how you can manipulate data in a machine learning sense to solve a problem. So don't start by thinking that you need to know more than that. Obviously, there are a lot more, and there are some really cool ones like, say, XGBoost, or even progressing further into deep learning. Don't think that just because people tell you that that's all the rage that you need to do that straight away. Focus on the fundamentals. Get a really good understanding of those algorithms and how they can actually solve problems. And when you're building out projects for your portfolio, using these things, but illustrating how you can use them to add value. Because when a hiring manager or a recruiter is looking through your portfolio, they don't want to just see screeds of technical code. They want to see how you've solved a problem. And if you use something that's really effective, but maybe other people would say it was simple, and then who cares? You've solved the problem. So that's something which I advise, don't get bogged down by all of these, fancy machine learning algorithms. Learn a smaller subset of algorithms, but learn them really well, understand what's going on under the hood. And then everything I've talked about so far is just technical skills, right? But there's so much to data science than technical skills. And there's a huge, part of what makes a great data scientist, in my experience, are those softer skills. Absolutely the smartest data, the best data scientists that I've ever worked with, they're not the ones who are smartest by, the definition that we would say smart is, like they're really good at maths or really good at coding. They know that stuff, but they're the ones that can think about a business problem and, in a really sensible way, think about the appropriate solution, depending on other factors. They're the ones that can communicate ideas to stakeholders in a way that it doesn't just end up getting put on the shelf because nobody trusted it. Because data science, we're here to solve problems. We're not here to create new problems, I guess, or we're here to accelerate decision making, not slow it down or get in the way of it.
Yeah.
So that's my kind of a whirlwind advice on maybe how to get into data science. Don't get blown away by all of these things that people tell you to learn. Just focus on some things that you can understand and start applying them.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. And I think at this point, so I'm going to start jumping into questions. And if you're just joining us, ask questions around skills needed in careers in data science. So I'm going to go ahead and start with Jonathan. I know you touched on this already, but for those just joining now, what was your inspiration to create your course in data science? Did you feel like there's something unique that you wanted to teach in your course that's missing from others? I think I know what it is. Let's have you say it again.
So I touched on this a little bit earlier on, but I think my inspiration for creating it in the first place was my experience interviewing and screening candidates and seeing this slight disconnect between what people are learning and what hiring managers are after. And oftentimes it was people jumping ahead and learning, deep learning, but then coming into the interview, and when they need to talk about how you might solve a problem pragmatically, they fell short. And I wanted to try and bridge that gap by making sure people learn the right things. So the things that hiring managers, broadly speaking, want, and then that people learn in the right way with a real focus on intuition and understanding, but also application. Because if you're learning with a focus on application, it's much more enjoyable, but that also translates quite well to getting a role, because you'll start being able to build up a portfolio of varied projects, which when you go out to an interview or you're talking to a recruiter, that's a really valuable thing to have, especially when you don't have a whole lot of work experience. That's what you're relying on a lot of the time. So having a real good focus on application is really important, I think. And then with Data Science Infinity, I guess the other thing which sets it apart from the vast majority of other online courses is that when I first created it, there was only one plan available, and that comes with unlimited guidance and support from me. So if you get stuck on a problem or you get stuck trying to understand something, you can just ask me and I'll be right there, dedicated to support you in figuring that out. Like I say, I sit in the little Data Science Infinity cave all day, and I'm dedicated to helping my students. If you want a resume review or you want project reviews, I'm right there. I can't talk about it too much because he's not started yet, but I have one of my students in the course who's just landed a role, and he got much more money than he even asked for, because we worked together and we figured out exactly, what are they looking for in a candidate, and he was able to go to them and sort of showcase himself in the best light. And I think that's where I really want to help people, because I've been fortunate to have that experience in big companies, and I've had that experience of interviewing people and seeing where they fall short. And I think I'm quite fortunate in being able to sort of pull those two together, and that's where I want to try and help people as much as I can.
And now, quickly, let's talk about your content only plan, because you do have a new plan available for people who might want a different approach.
I do. So,
you want to share your screen and kind of show some stuff?
Actually, let me set that up. I haven't set that up yet. Let me sort it out.
Okay, so while you do that, I'll remind people that asking questions is highly encouraged, especially in this session, because Andrew is going to select one winner to receive a free access to his content-only plan, which is valued at $600. So great deal. Definitely, good luck to everybody. Hope you win if this is something you're looking for. So Andrew, I see you've got your screen. I'm going to go ahead and
yes, cool. So this is the main site. So this is datascienceinfinity.teachable.com. So this is where you can find all of the information about Data Science Infinity. You can see some feedback from students. You can see more about me and why I created the course the way I do, which I've already rambled to you about in quite a lot of detail. You can see the full curriculum, which I'll show you in a second. And then there's a lot of preview tutorials that you can watch again, because I want, before you invest in yourself, I want to make sure that you're comfortable with the way that I teach, and I want to make sure that you're comfortable with the types of things we'll be covering. So yeah, I can, if anyone wants this link or can't see it, it's data-science-infinity.teachable.com. And absolutely feel free to message me if you can't find that, or you want more details. But yeah, so this is the main course here. There's a bit about me, like I say, and my experience and why I created the course. There's feedback from students, which we can go through. There's a little bit about, why would you take this course versus another course? Why would you get into data science in the first place? And then I will just keep scrolling down a little bit more about what you'll learn. And then, yeah, like Kate mentioned, there are now 2 options. So there's the premium plan, which comes with all of the content, but then also the unlimited guidance and support. And then there's the content only plan, which is a little bit more cost effective, because you don't get that unlimited guidance and support. So this is really about upskilling yourself. So at the moment, there's 221 tutorials in the program, covering essentially what I said before, what leaders, hiring managers, and recruiters, along with my experience in the industry, those guys that I talked to, what they said, these are the key things that we want from a data scientist early in their career who wants to have a really good foundation to blossom into any, particular part of the field. Excuse me. And it's going to keep growing as well, the content. So at the moment, I am heavily in the middle of creating a whole new section on deep learning. So I think deep learning is a really important thing to learn, but the reason I didn't put that in originally was that I want people to understand the foundations of some of the statistics and some of the more classic machine learning algorithms first, because I don't want people jumping straight to deep learning. I think that's a mistake that people make. So there is the content only plan here, and that is what I'm going to be giving away, one of those content only plans, as long as you obviously sign up to the dedicated conference.
Yes, thank you.
So down the bottom here, we've got, I don't need to go through this in too much detail. This is the curriculum, which you can see below. And obviously you can watch certain ones of these videos. We start off going through things like, what makes a great data scientist, things like self-confidence and imposter syndrome, which people don't often cover, but I think they're really important. And then we cover SQL, everything you need to know about SQL. We go into Python. There's a lot of content on Python, and you can almost consider these SQL and Python parts of the course as almost bonus prerequisites. So even if you know Python or SQL, you can still come onto the course. So we learn everything you need to know about Python to get you started. So base Python, NumPy, pandas, and matplotlib. And then I try and teach in a way that incorporates a lot of interesting and fun mini projects rather than just hammering code. I don't think that's it doesn't sink in as well. So we've got quite interesting mini projects as we go. So when we're learning about NumPy, we stop, and instead of using numeric data, we stop and we use an image, and we flip it around and we extract the different color components and we put them stack them on top of each other in it. And we build this picture of a Camaro in all 3 different color, the 3 color components stacked on top of each other, and you could literally print that out and hang that on your wall. Nice. And then we learn about how you can find all the prime numbers between 0 and 1,000,000 in under a second, and we do that just by illustrating why you might use different types of data structures in Python, things like that sort of help pull all of the information together. Matplotlib, we go through
a lot of content, man. That's a lot of content.
Yeah, it's a lot of scrolling. So 221 tutorials. There will be more.
So I had a question. You mentioned you're building out something on deep learning. So if people get the package, will they still get the new content that you're going to add to the course over time?
Yes, absolutely. So if you sign up now, you'd be in a perfect position to go through the course, and then once deep learning is released, which might realistically be about 6 or 8 weeks away, because there's a lot to cover, and I put a really strong focus on making sure that it's done well, not rushing it out. Because if it's not done well, then my whole business model falls over, So absolutely. So to answer your question, Kate, yes, if you sign up now, you'll have access to all future content. And then, so we don't have to go through the content. If you want to visit the site, you can go through it all.
Okay, awesome. So let's go back to questions. We've got a lot of questions, Andrew. And I know we have 10, 15 minutes left. So let's hammer through. Ready? This one's from Joe. So for the algorithms, should we memorize the specific formulas that make up the algorithms, or be able to describe them in plain English?
It's not a bad thing to be able to memorize the specific formulas. If you can do that, then that's awesome. I certainly can't. But the way that I try and teach is I almost think about it backwards. So I try and teach with a full focus on intuition. So when I will introduce what the formula looks like, but then I will replace all the Greek symbols with words, because that not only does that make sense to me, as a small aside, I don't come from a mathematical background. I didn't study maths or machine learning or computer science at university. I studied marketing and psychology. So for me, throughout my career, as I've built further into data science, I've struggled with the mathematical side of it. So I've always had to take everything that I learn and work really hard and turn that into something intuitive. But the bonus about learning something intuitive and almost putting it into words is that you build up a really, really powerful skill for a data scientist, which is the ability to explain that to somebody from marketing or the product team who doesn't come from a technical background, and they won't know. If you give them a formula, that means nothing to them. And your job as a data scientist is to get your application or your report or whatever it is that you've built for them, you've got to get that in front of them, and then they've got to tick that box and say, yes, I'm happy for that to go to my customers. And if you can't, then it's just going to sit on the shelf and you won't add any value. And if you don't add value, you won't move up in your career. So it's kind of like a longer term view that I have, that if you can learn with a focus on intuition rather than strictly mathematical formulas, which are obviously still important because they are what they are, that breeds a really powerful skill for data science.
Yeah, I think sometimes it's even easier if you're not coming from a very technical background, and then you learn this stuff, because then you can relate more to the business and you can break it down to them in a way that you would have liked it before you had actually learned all this technical stuff. So, all right, next question from Jose. If you would like to learn data science from scratch once again, we just gave you a clean slate in your brain, how would you start?
I would just learn I would take Data Science Infinity, obviously. No. I think the key thing, and a lot of people talk about this, but it's true, don't try and learn by learning all of the code at once or all of the maths at once. Make sure you learn a little bit and then try and put it into place with a really simple project, even if that's something like building a game of tic-tac-toe using lists in Python. That really, and for me, and everybody's different, so it's not a strict way of doing things, but for me, things sink in so much better when you can just apply them, and it doesn't have to be in this huge project which you could then go and tell a recruiter about, but just these mini projects which help you pull a few concepts together and see them in action. Because for me, just learning mathematical formula after mathematical formula, it doesn't do anything. It bounces off my brain, whereas putting them in practice does help. So I think always have an eye on projects, and they don't have to be portfolio projects. They can just be mini projects that just tie a few skill sets together. So I think, broadly speaking, that's what I would do. But then again, I sort of came from it from that angle, because I didn't come from a data science degree. I just came into it from, like, I've told people the story before. I got into analytics, I guess it was called, when I came into the industry, because I played indoor cricket with a guy who was the manager of a marketing analytics team, and I just graduated, and I talked to him and he said, you should apply for a job, and I managed to get the job, and I learned SAS coding, and I just blew my mind that you could use linear regression to predict something, or logistic regression to predict who was going to churn from a business. I thought this was just like voodoo magic, and I've just kept working away. But yeah, keep an eye on projects would be, keep a focus on project-based work.
Okay, cool. So what's the duration of the course as it stands now? I know you're going to keep adding content.
Yes, so it's a tricky question to answer. I get asked this all the time, but because everyone has a different amount of time on their hands, if you know what I mean. There's no, so first things first, when you sign up to Data Science Infinity, you have unlimited access. There's no end point for it. You don't have 3 months, we don't have a year. And I purposefully did that because I don't think there's a sales pitch that I'm comfortable with saying, become a data scientist in 6 weeks or learn data science in 3 months. It's not, it's a journey. It's not a destination. It's sort of a longer term journey. But in saying that, it depends how much free time you have, but you could get through the content in 2 months, probably, if you had a lot of time to apply to it. But most people who are on the course who started in, say, October, November, they're sort of halfway through, 3/4 of the way through the content, and then, like Kate said, there's more coming as well. But especially with the premium plan where you get the unlimited guidance and support, it's all about your journey. I just want to be on your journey with you, and if we can get you into a role, then that's fantastic. That's all I could possibly ask for. But it's a tricky question to answer, but somewhere between two.
Let's trip you up even more, Andrew. This is fun. I love being the questioner, not the answer. Who do you admire most in the data science community, and why?
Oh man, there's a lot of people. There's people that I sort of have become to know quite well over the last year. So people like Tom Ives, who a lot of you follow. So he's not only very skilled at what he does and he knows a lot, but he's putting a lot of his time and effort into helping people, and he's very passionate about understanding where people are coming from and helping them with that side of it. So I admire him a lot in terms of, for that side of things. There's also like Ken G, Danny Ma. These are just fantastic guys that you have to be listening to because they know their stuff. And then more broadly speaking, I guess, somebody like Hadley Wickham, who, if you know R coding, he's just like a god. He created the tidyverse. And I don't code so much in R anymore, but when I did, he's from New Zealand as well. So originally, I always had a soft spot for Hadley Wickham. I can't even think of any. I'm probably missing like everybody that's amazing in data science.
Awesome. I just felt like I should ask you that. Okay. Devashish is asking, what are some pitfalls for someone who's starting in the data science field?
Yeah, kind of similar to what we've said already, I guess, jumping too quickly into things like deep learning. Because with deep learning, it is incredible. The things that are being done in deep learning are incredible, but the reality is when you're coming into data science, a lot of what you're going to be doing is slightly more simple than building full deep learning models, because the vast majority of businesses are still trying to solve quite simple problems with their data. I absolutely encourage you to get into deep learning, but just do it after you've set the fundamentals up a little bit, a nice foundation to get into it first. People thinking that maybe another pitfall might be people thinking that they're automatically going to go straight into a data science role. Sometimes you have to be realistic and say data science is it's my goal to get into a data science role. But there are a lot of, if you're a data analyst, that's the job title that you have. That doesn't mean that you're not doing data science type work. It's quite a broad term, to be honest. Data science can mean everything and anything. So don't think that data science as a role title is something you have to have. It's just part of a business's data plan, their plan moving forward. So be happy getting a data analyst role. Be really pumped about that and do great work. And if you really want the data science title, then you'll get there. Just start pushing some more of those data science concepts into your team, because every team can use data science concepts to make them better.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. Thanks for that. Question here from Ehsan. Should there be any background to participate in your course? Any prerequisites?
So I've tried to make the course accessible for anybody. So we really start at the fundamentals of all of the concepts, whether that's SQL or Python. We have this introductory theory tutorial where we really just say this is what Python is and this is where it came from and this is why it's different to R and C and these other languages and why it's so popular. And then we build up into some more of the basic fundamentals, and then we start really pushing it, and we go from quite a broad high level introduction right up to some really complex stuff. For the machine learning section, I have a structure which I follow, which is we have an introductory theory session where we again introduce the topic that anybody could understand, and then we go straight into Python and we code up a really basic template so you can see the code, so you can start pushing buttons and seeing what happens. And I think that's something which is missing from some other courses, is that you don't get to do something really basic and see it working, so your cogs in your brain can start ticking over. Then we from the basic stencil we go into all of the advanced theory that you need to know, and then we finish off by going back into Python and coding up a more advanced template. And we do that for all the machine learning algorithms that we learn about. It's the same template. And for that final one, we're always solving a problem that came from our mock client that we have in the course, which is ABC Grocery. So they email us every time we learn something new, and they've got a new requirement for us. So everything you learn, you've almost got this template that you could then turn into a portfolio project. So you're learning everything you need to know, but you can sort of transfer that with a little bit more work to sort of smooth the edges and make sure you've got the data preparation in there, which we learn about. But for each of them, we don't need to learn it every time, if you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. So we learn the fundamentals at the start about data preparation and cleaning, and then, we go through and we apply what we need to. But everything's got this focus on application, which I think is really important.
Absolutely. I love the email concept, because that's kind of how the real world works. You're just sitting there doing something, then you get another email for a request. Or do you have any interesting emails that like totally throw people off, or is it all focused around really training?
No, it's kind of like an email from the marketing team saying, hey, we've got this new idea that we want to go after, but we don't know how to do it. Could you advise us on how to do it? And then come back to us with the results, and we can discuss what they mean. And, we go through it. And at the end of the tutorial, where we have, done the advanced sort of coding template, I discuss for a minute or two where I might take that when I discuss that with marketing, to try and keep that level of stakeholder engagement, because you can't really, it's hard to teach that in a course exactly to how to communicate. But I think just when you've got a classification accuracy score from your model, that's not the end of the road. There needs to be the next steps on what impact does that have, and that sort of discussion or that mindset, I think, is really, really good for people getting into the field to think about how they structure their portfolio projects, how they structure their CV, and how they discuss these projects in interviews. Always think about what's the business impact or what's the value. A classification accuracy of 94% is cool. Yeah. But as a hiring manager, I don't care. I want to know, how much money did that make my team? How good did you make me look? What have we brought the business? So I think that level of thing, and that can set you apart from a lot of other candidates.
Yeah, absolutely. Question from Laura. So could you give us any advice for people who already have the data science skills but are not in the data science role position?
Is your question around how to get a data science position, I suppose? Because if you've got this...
You mentioned people shouldn't wait just to get a data science role. So let's assume this person's a data analyst and wants to be a data scientist and has the skills.
Yeah.
That jump.
Yeah, just try and apply those skills as much as you can. Try and help the business understand where they can be impactful. And if you can show they're impactful and you can show the value, then you're essentially a data scientist, even if you don't have the name, which is why when people are creating their CVs and they've done a lot of data science work, but they've never had a data science title, I still say put data science and whatever else skills as the headline. I'm not saying that I've been a data scientist. I'm just saying I have data science skills. So when people are flicking through your CV, they don't automatically go, not a data scientist, not a data scientist. They see, oh, this guy's got data science skills. When you can get in the seat and have a talk with them or on the phone, you can then talk to them about why you're a good fit for the role. It's just, don't be scared of saying, I've done data science things because I've not had a data science title. Yeah. Be confident and say, I can do data science stuff. Like talk to me and I can show you.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay. Anubhav is asking, what's the best interview question anyone has ever asked you?
The best interview question? I can tell you I've had a lot of
bad ones. You can think of all the bad ones, right?
So, yeah, there's one, and I think I've mentioned this before I'm not sure if it was with you, Kate, or not, but I got asked, I won't name the company, but the question was, let me remember. The question was, you live on an island and you have a monster. The monster eats sheep. How big does the island need to be? And in my head, I'm going, oh, Christ, I can't wait to get out of here. Like, I don't want to work for this company. And this was, I don't know how many years ago, maybe 8 or 10 years ago, when those types of questions were quite popular because Google were doing them. So everyone thought they'd try and do them.
Yeah.
And I mean, because I'm originally from New Zealand, and I'm from a farming community in New Zealand, and so I didn't grow up on a farm, but I grew up with a lot of friends that were farmers. So in my head, I started talking to them about like paddock rotation and like how you'd get you needed to have a couple of paddocks so the monster could be in here, and then when he'd finished the sheep there, he could go there. And I'm not sure that's what they were asking for. I don't recall. I did not get that role, so I think I missed out on exactly what they were after there. But I don't think those questions are worthwhile, even though I obviously failed that one spectacularly. I don't think those questions give you, as a hiring manager, I don't think they give you much about a candidate. I guess it shows you they can discuss things, but
yeah,
there's better ways to interview for data science candidates, I think.
Yeah, I know. I remember I had one question. This guy would ask the question. I don't remember the exact question, but I thought I answered it really, really well. Okay. And then he asks the exact same question in the exact same way. And I'm like, okay, well, this is weird. So I answer the question a little bit differently, still the same answer that I was going to give. And then he's like, okay. And then he asks the same question again. I'm like, okay, this guy's just messing with me at this point. But I'm like, okay, let me just try to, like, am I missing something? Am I crazy? Is he crazy? How do I get out of here? Yeah, he was looking for like one more thing, and I was using a term that he wanted me to use a different term, even though they mean the same thing. But anyways, I ended up getting the job. But yeah, that was one of the weirdest experiences because he was all cool about it, but asking the exact same question 3 times in a row can really throw somebody off.
Yeah.
But are there questions, Andrew, that you think, let's say you're hiring for a role for a data scientist, that you think would be a really good question to ask?
Yeah. So like I said, part of me going out and talking to leaders and hiring managers and recruiters, one of the questions I ask the recruiters is, what's your favorite interview question for data scientists? And not like your favorite one, like the monster one. A question which is useful. And obviously a lot of people had different versions of the same question, I found, and it's very simple. It's walk me through a data science project you've done and explain the impact that it had on the business. Like that in itself it's super simple, but that's all I want to see from you. I want to see that you can tell me what it was you did, and then I want you to tell me that you know about the impact that it had, and then I'm going to follow up with sort of probing questions as you're answering on what you did. And this is a really good thing to have up your sleeve, is what would you have done differently? Or if you had more time, what would you have done differently? Because that shows a really good understanding of what it is you're doing. So I used this, and this was the result. If I had more time, or if I could have started again based on everything I learned, I would have gone down this path instead. Because I don't think any project goes perfectly. So if you can kind of have that auxiliary information that you can show that you've got a broad awareness of what you're doing and what the pros and cons of different approaches are, I think that's really good, because a lot of the time in data science, or say machine learning, it's a trade-off between a more complex model that might take longer and might be harder to implement versus something simpler that gives you maybe slightly less accuracy, but it's pretty easy and everyone understands it. And if you can show that you've got that level of, common sense and understanding of the pros and cons, I think that's a really powerful thing to show.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know we're like way over time, so I'm going to ask one last question, even though we have, I don't know, like 100 more questions that came in. So this one's from Jessica. What do you think is missing in the market for newbies in data science, right? So talking about opportunities for their preparation, mentoring, things to help them be successful in starting a career in data science.
What is missing in the market for newbies? I mean, this is where I was sort of coming from when I created Data Science Infinity. It was trying to bridge that gap between, because I was seeing people coming in and they were so passionate, but they just didn't have the skill set around showing the value you can add with what you're building. I think that's really valuable training. And I know if you guys, Ravit Jain had Gilbert on his show the other day, and Kate's probably got the book. Do you? I've got the book here as well. It's really, really good. Yeah. I've got a copy as well. I think that if you can get your hands on a copy of that book, that's a really good way to round yourself out as a data scientist, because when you're looking through data science applications, you see the same thing over and over again. You get people shouting about the skills they have and the experience they've got with certain tools, but and that's awesome. That's what you need. You need those tools, but to sell yourself and to stand out, I think the key thing is thinking more broadly than that, showing that you can, like, and I've said it 100 times today as well, and I ramble about it throughout my course, is that the idea that data science is more than just tools and skills. Those are so important, but if you need to be showing the value you can add, and if you can show a hiring manager that you're going to come in and solve their problems, then they're going to start wanting you there, because they think, well, you're going to make my life easier and you're going to make money for our company, and that makes me look good. That's what you need to be selling to the hiring manager. So try and find ways to get those skills. Look at others who are good at that. They're good at communicating their ideas. When you're in a role, not thinking about what you're doing. Think about what other people need, like the marketing manager you're working with. What are their KPIs? Can you help them meet their goals? Because that's gonna mean you add value. And when you start adding value and you keep adding value, that's when you get a promotion. That's where you can show to another hiring manager that you are valuable, and therefore you can get paid more. And that's how you progress your career. It's through absolutely getting value from what you're doing, using your unique skills.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm almost like sad that we're out of time, but I know we do have to wrap up because so many great questions are coming up. So Andrew, if you do have a couple of free hours to respond to some of these questions, and those who are watching this after the live session has ended, still feel free to put your comments and questions in here, because Andrew is going to pick a winner at some point later today or maybe early tomorrow and announce them. So Albert says he's late to the party. Oh, I see you joined from YouTube. Hey, Albert, no, I was just saying you're not late. So if you've got questions for Andrew about getting started in data science, and for those who are listening and who have, if you have answers to some of these questions, definitely feel free to go ahead and respond to some of these comments in whichever social media platform you joined us from. So Andrew, as I wrap up, just remind people to go ahead and sign up for the Dedicated Conference. It's coming up. I was going to say tomorrow. It's not tomorrow. It's coming up next week, February 9th, 10th, and 11th. So you can sign up by going to storybydata.com and click on Dedicated Conference. But also definitely check out what Andrew's been up to for the past, I guess, over a year now, right? Total for Data Science Infinity.
Yeah, coming up a year. So your conference next week, I'm going to be there all day, every day. So to confirm, is it Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or is it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday?
Yes, it is. Cool. It's 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Eastern for those 3 days. I felt like that would be the best time.
Yeah, absolutely. And this links back to what I said before when there was a great question, who do I admire in the data science industry? I named a few of those people. I think some of those people are going to be talking at the conference. If you look through the list of people that are talking at the conference,
Yes, there are like 30 people. There are 30 people, and this is the agenda. This is my little, I don't know. This is my most for the week.
What I quite like about it as well is that it's not just data science, or it's not just data governance. It's covering everything. And I think for, say, an aspiring data scientist, which we've probably got, based on the theme of what we're talking about, getting an understanding, and I do this as well, because like data governance, and these aren't things that I do day to day, but understanding more about them and is really important to your broader data knowledge, in terms of how much value you can add. And that's why I'm going to be attending, because there's going to be speakers, the best speakers in the industry talking about these things. So if you're an aspiring data scientist, I'd say don't miss out, because it's going to be a good absorbing, absorb everything you can, and it's definitely worth it.
Yeah, thanks a lot for that. Yeah, and it's going to be somebody, I see Chuck here wrote 30 lightning talks. Yep, they're 10-minute sessions. So we will have some time for Q&A and more giveaways. There's so much stuff. There's more stuff to give away than I can possibly give away. But, I see Scott's here. He said he's going to be there too. You should check out what Scott's, follow Scott Taylor. He's going to post something really funny, I think today or tomorrow. I'm not going to give it away, but it has something to do with Spartacus. But anyways, Andrew, thank you so much for your time. Definitely, if you have some time to jump into the LinkedIn comment at some point and address a couple of those. A lot of questions for you there about the course, about you, about data science in general. So
Yeah,
thank you.
absolutely. If people want to get in touch with me, the easiest place is to just DM me here on LinkedIn, because I am on LinkedIn a lot. So I will be more than happy to discuss Data Science Infinity with you or data science with you. So just get in touch.
And it's easy to find Andrew. If you look for Andrew Jones, and you'll see this huge Data Science Infinity right after his name, that's the right one. So, makes it easy to find you. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you for your time. And those who tuned in live, thank you for watching. Those who are watching the recording, keep asking questions and commenting. Winners will be announced soon. Winner. Okay. Thanks.